5 minutes live.
Hello, everybody. I'm Laura Krohn, the Well You Coach, and welcome to the Sexy School, where we invite conversations about everything to do with our sensual intelligence and what that means to you and how it impacts us as we age to live vibrantly and fully across the lifespan. And today I'm excited to have Jeremy with us. And we'll let Jeremy tell you about himself, but he is an author, he's a speaker, he's a I'm going to say men's coach, but he'll probably correct me when he says his little spiel. And he works to support men in understanding that the most important relationships beside yourself is with your connection with your partner. And he'll dive more into that. And we'll talk about how our sensual intelligence impacts us in terms of listening to what is coming up for us in our body and our energy. So let's uh let's have you introduce yourself and tell the audience a little bit about what it is that you enjoy doing and what kind of work that really supports you feeling vibrant and alive.
Absolutely. Well, Laura, first, thank you for the opportunity and thank you for the conversation around the idea of sensuality and sexiness, that it can be a school, it can be a skill that we get better at with education and practice. And I would throw in playfulness because,
Yes.
being intimate with other people, whether that's a physical, a mental, emotional, spiritual, it's kind of like being on the water slide. And if you're tense and resistant, it's not a lot of fun. But if you let go and just kind of go with it, pretty amazing. And we've only got so much time in this life to enjoy ourselves anyway. So I guess you could spend a lot of it making yourself and other people wrong. I don't know how much fun that is. So I'm Jeremy Roadruck. I am a men's consultant because my job is to come in, address what's going on, and then I leave. Or, we can hang out because in my world, leaders create more leaders, not followers. And so if you've got a $10 million deal that's going to go south and you've got to fix it now, cool, what would you do? Would you be too busy? Would you be too tired? Would you be too stressed? Or would you dig in? Because when I'm dealing with men, especially in marriage issues, that is a 10 million plus dollar exposure a lot of the times, because if she leaves, that's 50 to 8% of your net worth bouncing out the door. That's also access to your kids, legacy, identity. There's a lot of messy stuff that gets involved. So, question I ask my clients, do you want to be right or do you want to get results? Because if what you were doing was right, you'd be getting your results. So let's dialogue. And that's it. I'm Kung Fu Master, international champion, best-selling author, master hypnotherapist, former factory worker, former soldier, former Renaissance Festival worker. So I have done a lot of stuff. I've also had to live in my car, partly for the Renaissance, but also because I went through a failed relationship and I had nowhere else to turn, which was not a warm, big, happy experience. I do not recommend. So today, life and love is amazing. Living in Orlando, Florida, lucky me, and here to add value to the world around me.
Nice. Well, thank you. Just like we were touching on a little bit, I'd love to hear, because I know what myself and my friends and the women that I've been talking to, especially around the topic of the sexy school, what belief systems we grew up with. I'm in my
Hmm.
sixth decade of life,
Nice.
and really um, and this question really just turned on for me in the last couple of years of really just kind of re-engaging once I went on hormone therapy, right? So
Hmm.
there's so much that happens in our physical body as we age, really starting in our 30s.
Yep.
I'll share, I went into menopause at 40. So I was in
Oh, wow.
perimenopause at 30 and just thought I was fat and sweaty. It was just like, that's all I thought.
Yeah.
Fast forward, the evolution and the different things. Even somebody who's, got degrees in health and education and works in wellness, there's questions I wasn't asking myself, right? So from a man's perspective, let me just, maybe you can help me understand. So, so often when you're in an intimate relationship, and I'm going to use because my relationships are with opposite sex, so my relationships are with men typically, um, and and oftentimes you think that they're thinking something because of the cultural norms that we hear. So as women, we hear, don't don't rock the man's ego. So don't ask for what you want. in an intimate relationship because you could bruise their ego. These are the things that I grew up
Yeah.
with, right? Not
Yeah. Yeah.
not sound, not based in necessary reality, but just the physicality of a female. Like women think men don't like curves. Women, we have this belief that, if we're not this perfect Barbie doll kind of looking, model, that we're flawed in some way in a man's eyes. So
Hmm.
help me, because what I have learned is that's not true. That's not
No.
really how most men look at women. There's some
Hmm.
women that like more athletic, lean, masculine, even if you will, looking bodies, but majority of men like curves. So tell
Yeah.
me your experience of things that you heard growing up that kind of maybe laid a foundation of your belief system.
Yeah. Yeah. So I went sideways young. I had some abuse in my background that I had to put myself back together. I couldn't trust adults. I couldn't trust kids because things happened with adults and kids outside of the home. And so that made me at a very young age very observant and very inquisitive. And I remember, like her or don't, Rosie O'Donnell used to be a stand-up comedian, and she had a routine that she did where she went down to Mexico to do a project, and she was with a friend of hers who literally was a supermodel, and all the guys, all the locals were ignoring the supermodel and trying to get with Rosie. And Rosie, a little more, not the supermodel body type, right?
Yeah.
And it fried her circuits because she's like, what the hell's going on? What is this? And one of the guys said to her, the bone is for the dog, the meat is for the man.
Wow.
And they liked the fact that
Wow.
that she's got, I mean, you look at ancient history, right? The Rubenesque
Yeah.
paintings, it's
Yeah.
women with they've got meat on their bones, they've got resiliency, they've got padding, they've got and just pure transactional as a guy, if you've had sex with a super, super thin woman, um, lots of sticks and twigs and bony parts. Not a lot of fun. There's not a lot of softness or yieldness or flow with it. It's very hard edges. And so for a lot of guys, we want a woman who's healthy. We want a woman who takes care of herself. But at the same time, it's going to be in a range for guys of what they're looking for. Like, does she smoke? That may not be an attractive thing because it's like, oh, she doesn't care about her health, right? Does she smell? That's not going to be super cool. But it's like more than anything, how does she carry herself? Does she
Mm.
feel comfortable inside her own skin? Because that's a low maintenance woman. Not that she looks like garbage, doesn't take care of herself, but the idea that not a lot of stress, not a lot of tension. She's going to be playful. She's going to be accepting and open and engaging. Like those are the things. And if her body reflects that, cool, that's going to open the door to further conversation and stepping deeper. And if her body is like, oh, she's like, I've got to eat this and this time and I've got to work out in this way and I've got to, and her whole schedule is this giant, huge forest of deliverables. For a lot of guys, it's like, ugh, this is a project. It's not worth the time and effort. Right. So it really is sort of that range. But most important is how comfortable are you with yourself? Because he's only going to be able to meet you as far as you met yourself. And if you're caught up in your own things and less accepting of yourself, it's very hard for you to receive him because he gives you a compliment and says, "Oh my God, you're amazing." And it's this one part of your body you don't like, but he finds it adorable, right? For some guys, it's like the length of the neck. So if you wear your
Mhm.
hair up, or it's this area here that gets his attention. For some guys, it is where the curve of the hip is and the fold of the thigh where it goes down, and that little part there where the bone is on the side of the hip bone is just like, oh my God, like that lights him up. So it's really a matter of understanding the man you're with or want to be with, what parts of you delight him, and you may never understand it. You don't
Right.
have to. You can just appreciate it and go, well, he likes it, and I'm good to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with working, I love that. With working with men, what are some of the what are some of the areas of challenge that they feel about being able to have communication around their sensual well-being with their partners? Like, do you see trends of especially in this day and age where we're all behind the screen so much. Do you
Yeah.
hear them speaking specifically of things that maybe you didn't hear before?
I was in a men's membership group and it was about 600 guys. And one of the big things a lot of guys had issue with was staying power because they were so excited. They had like there was a running joke of like fire truck, fire truck, fire truck, fire truck. Like they're having to mentally disengage from the experience because they don't know how to not arrive too quickly, right? Now, in my background, I got involved with it. There's a guy named Mantak Chia, and it's a Taoist dual cultivation expert. And Taoist cultivation, they get into like Tantra is the Buddhist version, and Taoism has another version, but it's like getting into sexual yoga and getting into different ways, ejaculation control, prolonging orgasm. Like there's some really, really cool stuff. I've been playing with that stuff since I was like in my like 20. So I've got like 30 years of practicing things. So staying power is like it's easy and for me because it's a skill you can cultivate, but trying to disassociate from the experience, like guys don't understand, your woman can feel you leave the room, and this is
Mhm.
becoming a mechanical act, and that's not what gets her to open to higher levels of bliss and ecstasy, because she can feel she's running on all cylinders and she's aware of everything with every fiber of her being. She can feel a part of you is holding back, and now she has no way to explain it, so it must be her fault. There's something wrong with her, and now she's in her head. That's a lose-lose game, right? We're both just versus no, step into that space. And not every time you're going to be intimate has to be full Monty 2 hour marathon session. It could be 7 minutes of heaven in the closet and just a hot makeout session, and that's it. Like you could just prime the pump and then it's like, oh my God, you're amazing. I got to make out with you. And then go on about your day. And it's like, oh, but, and then you both are left wanting more. We call that an open frame. Then you can do that for a day or two. And then when you seal the deal, it's even more powerful, right? And it doesn't matter how quick someone arrives or doesn't arrive because there's been a build up for several days to a payoff. You can play that game. It costs you nothing except a little bit of patience. And it's actually fun because it's like go back to when you were dating and didn't cohabitate, didn't live together, and you had to have that period of time, right?
Right.
Distance creates desire. And so when we're living in the same house, cool, send flirty texts, prime that pump, but don't seal the deal and let it build for a day or two. It can be a very fun game.
Yeah, super good suggestion. Do you find that the men you work with are open, or do they have? I'm just curious because women, I think so often we're risk averse in this area
Hmm.
because it's
Hmm.
it's so vulnerable, right? And that
Yeah.
vulnerability to have the courage to ask for what you want means you have to
Yeah.
be ripped open, vulnerable, but it isn't a bad thing. But we are so, as a culture, taught to, protect the individual,
Yeah.
right? So I'm
Well,
just curious what you're hearing from the men that you work with in terms of,
they want to know what to do, but they
mm,
tend to go tactical. Tell me what to do, right? I
mm,
kiss her neck. Okay, how? Like they want to get into the nuts and bolts mechanics of it because it's a problem I got to solve so I can win the game. And it's very, and so ladies, if you want your guy to like, what I would love is if you were to take a moment and just linger here. That would drive me crazy. It would. Like you don't have to be, full Monty, everything here I am, just spread eagle
right.
on the bed like from zero. It can be a slow unfolding and a take a little bit of control. Tell him what you would like, how it makes you feel, what it provides to you, how crazy it makes you, how much it makes you crave him and want him. Because then he's like, here's how I win with her, and he gets to feel like a man, right? It's like if I take you to a movie and you love the movie and you talk about how cool the movie was, for him, he's like, I'm getting points. Like I won. I'm so in there because I did that, right? Not that I made the movie, but I took us to the movie. It was my idea. Oh, I took us to dinner and you liked the dinner. I did good. And like guys play for points. So how can we get points? Then I have to table that for a second and say, guys, just so you know, feminine points expire midnight, or the next dumb thing you say or do, or the next dumb thing you are perceived to have said or done, right? Because he's like, we just did this thing and now I've banked these points. And I'm like, that was yesterday. Today's a new day, right? Yeah, dinner was great, but you came home and kicked your shoes off, left your socks, sat down and watched TV and ignored her for the next 2 hours when she's looking to connect. So you just lost all your points, dude. Like you've got to live in the moment of those points, not You can't rest on your laurels. Every day is a new day. And guys want to know what to do. Sometimes they don't know what to ask or how to ask. Same thing for the ladies. It's like, how do I get him to notice me? He's dialed in on the thing that he's doing. Yeah, you got to break that tunnel vision, right? And sometimes it's just a simple matter of you grab him and say, I'm going to enjoy this. You're welcome to come along. And it's like, oh, that's very, it's very forward of me. I'm like, yeah, but if whatever you're doing recently hasn't been working, why not do plot twist,
Right.
right?
Yeah. Do you, so like in thinking of the sensual intelligence framework that I kind of have been continually evolving as I have these
Hmm.
conversations and things, but really, is there anything that you're seeing with a man that's in his, let's say, 40s plus, are there mindsets that you feel like that are rigid, that are you're
Hmm.
seeing more challenge to take away the transactional and allowing more of the organic connection? Because so much of intimacy, even if it's just your friend or even a colleague at work or whatever, is being present, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So is there,
Yeah. So guys get into this period usually early to mid 30s through mid 40s, even into early 50s, called kingdom building. And they have this compulsion to go out and build the machine, build the kingdom, build the thing. And they can't not work. Like even when you try to make them be here, like there's a part of their brain that's still chugging away at the business because the kingdom's not done. I'm not done. I'm not ready.
right,
And so a lot of times you'll hear a guy that'll say that, like, wife wants to connect. Oh, I got to finish this thing. I got to finish this thing. I got to get this thing. Right. And what that means is he's got to get this thing done. He's got a triangle in his brain. He's got a list. He's got to get this thing done. Very easily, a partner, a wife, a woman can go, he doesn't love me enough. If he wanted to, he would, kind of. But if he's in the middle of kingdom building and has this compulsion, it's not about whether he loves you more or wants to or not. He has to do this versus. So then, how can you create moments of talk about intimacy? Intimacy does not have to be just physical four core press. It
no,
can be sharing your ideas. It can be sharing your thoughts, sharing your memories, sharing your moments, sharing your feelings, and creating a sense. I love what you said about presence. Be here, which means this place in this room and now in this time. And so you can say, I miss you. I would love 5 minutes, 10 minutes of your undivided attention. And then you can definitely go back to the thing. I miss you. You're my favoriteest person. And I just feel like we haven't connected in forever. So is there anything I can do to help you create that 5 to 10 minutes today that we can just connect? I'm not saying we have to have sex. I'm not saying we have to da da da. I just miss feeling you here with me.
and that's a really good point because you're not having that conversation when you're in the bedroom. You're having that
Hmm.
conversation when you're just having your casual moments, or your
Hmm.
intentional moments. Do you find that the men you work with, have kids and
Hmm.
young men? Like, what are those conversations? Are you guys talking about how you speak to the young men and even young women about our intimacy levels in
Yeah.
relationships?
Yeah. Well, your day to day is their normal, right? Stay
Yeah.
together for the kids. But if you guys are toxic, your kids are modeling that as their normal and they're going to go recreate that in their own lives.
Mhm.
So is this the future you want for them? Is this the relationship you want for them? Right. And like for a man is different than a dad because a man lives or dies in his mind. Who cares? I'm just living my life. Doesn't matter. I don't matter on a deeper level. But once he becomes a dad, there's this person that depends on me. And there is a
Mhm.
shift in legacy because I have this man. Like I could go build a business as a man. That's cool. And I'm doing all this stuff. But when I have a life that depends on me, it's like, oh, new pressures, new identities. And so then it's like, how do I set them on a path? Because I don't want them to have the mistakes that I did or the struggles that I did. But sometimes the story can become, then I have to go out and build this thing so big they never hurt again. And while you're out building this thing, they don't have time with you. And you're essentially a stranger to them. And then you come home and you expect them to drop everything and connect with you. It's like, dude, you need a transition ritual from work mode into home mode. And that's a daily discipline. But then also you need to have like with your wife, at least once a month, you have a date day. But with your kids, you have a date day. Like we're gonna go have a family date day. We're gonna go do, and it's just us and no screens, and we're out. And it doesn't have to be big, fancy, expensive. It could be that we go to a park. It could be that we go on a hike. It could be we go on a road trip. It's just intentional presence, and like we like each other and we like who we are and where we're going, and we need those reminders. And that's how you teach your family values. You teach the life lessons you really want to instill in them. And so like guys want to do that, but it's that pulled apartness of I got to build, but I got to build outside the house, but I got to build inside the house. And then no one taught them how to do that. And so then it's like, how do you leverage technology to help compartmentalize and then
Right.
create transition rituals so you can switch between work mode and home mode so you can be present.
I love the transition. And I'm going to kind of tie back to the kingdom, building the kingdom.
Mhm.
Gosh, I don't even know how long ago it was. I want to say 15 to 20 years. I did these workshops with Alison Armstrong. Do you know her
Yep,
work?
I do.
So her work, so it was 5 or 6 weekends, long weekends, and it was
Hmm.
all women. And then at the end of the weekend, we had a panel of men that came
Yep.
in, and we had turned in our questions, and then they had these little cards, and they stood up there, and it was the most impactful for me because we were able to hear from men actually say, that's not accurate, or no, we don't believe that, or this is what we do believe, or it's this
Hmm.
simple, or it's
Yeah.
so. But I that's where I learned really the concepts about kingdom building in our different stages, and women do the
Yeah.
same. We have our different stages that we go through. And so if somebody's in a building, kingdom building, how do you coach them about their own mindfulness? Is it leveraging technology in this moment to like ping yourself a reminder, or put in, like
Yep.
whatever little special things, like how do they create today, kind of
Yeah.
pathways to easier connection than not where they're constantly having to create something, but it's more kind of an easy flow of how they interact.
Yeah. So with guys, I'll begin with just a very simple question. If you knew there was one person in your life that could amplify everything that you do by at least 250%, what would you do to keep them happy and engaged? Right? Whatever you do, they're going to two and a half times it every single time, automatically, effortlessly, naturally. What would you do to keep them in your life? Because married men, divorced and single men, married men are 250% more likely to live, or you say divorced and single men
Right.
are 250% more likely to die from every and all causes. Being single or being divorced, 250% more likely to die from everything compared to married counterparts. Marriage is literally the best thing that can be done for a man. And then if he properly engages with it, then it gets beyond 250%. So
Does it have to be the actual legal marriage, or can it be just the committed long-term?
yeah, committed long term. You have
Okay.
somebody who cohabitates and like looks at you and notices your spots and says, "Hey, dumbass, get to the doctor." Like that kind of you having a woman in your life who does maintenance and like keeps an eye on you kind of stuff. So it's usually in the construct of, and it's easier to research as married, but committed
Right.
long term relationship is the frame, right? But it's so if this person is worth 250% of your life, which a good woman is, all right. So this is the most important partnership. What are you doing daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, annually to invest in this relationship now and to have it in the future? And I explain it that way because guys need to understand women can only love into the time you give them. So if you're in a crisis and you got to get this job done and you cannot think beyond this weekend and you say to her, we'll talk about it this weekend, what she just heard is he will only love me until the weekend. There's nothing else beyond that. All she has is this to love into, which is going to take her attention through the roof. Versus, hey babe, I got to get this project done. So really, I don't have the bandwidth to dig in on this right now. However, one, I'm going to make time for that. And two, I am so looking forward to what is the thing in the future, 6 months, a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. I know the dues I'm paying now are going to pay off when we get that home in the south of Naples in 15 years. He wants to be with me for 15 more years. He wants to retire with me. He wants to live in Italy with me. Like you've just suddenly expanded so much space for her to love into, and her tension drops because she's got this future horizon to go put her heart and mind into. So, my dude, you need to be daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, annually. You need things in your calendar to do. So now we go into what are her five love languages, so that you're hitting on all five on a regular basis, and you randomize them. And this is where AI is a helpful tool. But what's her love languages? What's her primary communication system, which is something I teach them? What is your five to thrive, which is all about relationship vision and structuring out some stuff? What's her five to thrive? Right? What are her needs? What are your needs? Like, how do we create these points of interface so that on a regular basis, she feels, sees, hears, knows, understands that you and her are a team, and you get her to a level no human being ever has before, because then you're in a central place in her heart that is unassailable. This is how I divorce proof marriages, is because you two are connected in a power partnership. You're filling each other to overflowing on a regular basis. And mechanically, it's a discipline that you put in on your phone or scheduling software or whatever, but this is how you maintain this stuff. Just like you have an eating plan to maintain your fitness, or you have a workout plan to maintain your vitality, then your relationship, your marriage should have those same protocols, and you execute them within about 90%, because you got to leave playfulness and you know what? Screw everything today. We're going to the beach. My wife loves Disney, and it's like, you know what? We've been working really hard. Let's just go to Disney today. What? We could, but we have to, and yeah, yeah, we could, I guess, if you want to stay home. But if we go there, we don't have to do dishes. We don't have to clean the kitchen. Okay, that's a win. Off we go, right?
Well, what I love about that is just this conversation, like the sexy school name, right? It conjures up so many different ideas, but how I look at it is it's the everyday. It's like,
Yeah,
and it comes back to, like you said, the how you show up, how your confidence in your body, and just how you walk into a room, like how you feel when you
mm,
enter any space, and whether it's around your family or out in the world, or in your, and most of us don't give a lot of thought about it, right? We kind of just do what we do, right? But that's the
mhm.
part of the capacity building with the sensual intelligence, I think, that's so important,
Yeah,
and how it links, right? Because we're not talking about sex, and we're talking about acts of kindness, acts of intentionality, acts of giving, right? And
yeah,
acts of awareness. I think, and one of the questions I like to ask, as we kind of get to our wrap up time here is, you know, I, I was saying, what would you tell your 20-year-old self? But I realized we don't have a clue who we are when we're 20. It's like we
hmm,
think we know, right? We think
right.
we got it all figured out, you know. It's not really until probably our 40s that we kind of even have a clue. But
Yup.
because you do work with men and things, if there was one or two nuggets about how to really own your own self-worth, regardless of what's coming at you or what you're reading or seeing or hearing, what might you share with yourself back then when you were in your 30s, or with the
Yeah.
men that you work with now?
Yeah, I'll tell everybody right now, you're the dumbest you'll ever be 10 years from now. Unfortunately, I don't know how to get there any other way than just live the next 10 years. So because you are the dumbest now that you will be 10 years from now, cut yourself a little bit of slack and give yourself some appreciation and respect for the things that you do, the things that you actually implement, the actions you take. They may not be perfect. They maybe could be better, but you know what you did do is you didn't let it sit in theory. You took action and you implemented, because what you think and what you feel is BS. It's a belief system. It's made up. And it's meaningless until you put it into action because your actions create impact. Actions create consequences. You can think and feel whatever you want. It doesn't matter. Once you act, now you've entered the world and you've done something, and now you're creating ripples and flow. So appreciate the fact you took action, however perfect or imperfect, because you're still alive. You can still iterate, you can still adapt, you can still adjust. You can appreciate the feedback and go, well, thank you for telling me that. That's not at all what I intended. I did this. I was trying to go here. You just told me it went there. Fantastic. I will never do that again. Can I make this right with you? And just the ability to own your impact and to be in that place of appreciation for self and other, it makes your life so much more enjoyable, so much more fun, so much more playful, because that's all this is, right? I got a great quote, which is God's a comedian playing to an audience too scared to laugh. And if you can't laugh at yourself, you're missing so much opportunities for joy and mirth and humor. So like lighten up a bit, play a little bit.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
that's too, that's what I love about just the conversation. It's for me, it's kind of like, and because we have a little bit more time, I'm going to ask you one more question. Why do you
Mhm.
think it is that we as a culture just put so much taboo on talking about the intimacy in terms of our sensuality? It's like everything usually when you're talking about sensuality, most people until you're older think sex, right? But I
Mhm.
mean,
Mhm.
why do you think as a culture we have, and this is a big question, maybe it's not even the
Yeah,
best
yeah.
question to be asking, but I'm just curious if besides just the fact that it's just not done, and so we're just modeling the repeated behavior of not doing it.
Hmm. Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so,
Yeah.
you know,
So by and large, in America, we have a Judeo-Christian foundation. And inside that, you look at like the Quakers and the early religious groups that came here, sex was something shunned, sex was something not talked about. It was dirty, it was venial. It was all there's all this ickiness around it. And so if you're carrying an unconscious ickiness, like, right, the three things we're told not to talk about in polite society, don't talk about religion, don't talk about money, and don't talk about politics. Now, interesting thing, think about the people at the highest levels of economic achievement. Do you think they teach their kids about religion or about politics or about money? Yes, yes, yes. Right. But so many people link self-worth into net worth that if I don't make much money, it's shameful. I shouldn't talk about it versus it's just a facet of your life. It's not the sum total of your existence. And if you don't have a great economic engine, cool, let's explore other ways to do it. You don't have to take advantage of people. And in fact, the more successful your business is long term, it's because you don't take advantage of people. Because in an open economic system, people can leave you when they find out you're a jerk. So step into that place because what grows in the dark is usually rot, decay, and insects. So when we shine light on it, it's like, cool, now we can open up and we can learn. So unplug the judgment, unplug the less than or grossness or whatever. It's like, does God make junk? Well, no, God makes amazingness. Okay, cool. So that means physical intimacy, mental intimacy, emotional, social intimacy. Those are gifts from God to be enjoyed. Now, how do we go about doing that? Well, there's a proper time and place and safe and sane and consensual and context. But if we start from a place of it's all good and then we build versus no, no, that's shameful and we don't talk about that and that's just wrong. We don't talk about that. Right. Because you're uncomfortable. Okay, great. So your limitation now becomes your kid's limitation. How's that working? Do you want to be a writer? Do you want to get results? I like results.
well, it's so exciting to have these conversations, and I really, really appreciate your expertise, your knowledge, your years working with men, your insights, the fact that you're doing the work. I think, we go to such polar extremes in our society around everything anymore, right?
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
it's almost like it's not okay to have a conversation about that. Actually, masculinity is pretty cool. I like it myself. I'm drawn to masculinity. It's like how the pendulum swings. So it's
Hmm. Hmm.
thank you for the work that you're doing. Um, when this episode airs, there'll be information about how to get in contact with Jeremy, and would love to hear more from Jeremy down the road. I think we could
Yeah.
continue this conversation that's
Love
coming
to.
up. all the conversations seem to go. And is there any parting thoughts you
Yeah.
want to share?
Yeah. Yeah. Life is too short for bad food, bad marriages, or bad business, right? Because you only get one shot. So are you using it or are you losing it? And if you feel like you're losing it, cool, let's change the game. Like let's go. Like don't waste your time. That's the one thing you can never get back. Make money, lose money is not a big deal. You can make more. But lose 10 years, 10 years is hard to recover from.
Yeah.
So, especially in like the life of a kid, when you've got like 7 to 17 is a massive world. So let's be engaged and let's be intentional. Um, Money comes and
Love that.
goes.
Love that. Be
Yeah.
intentional. That's a
Hmm.
great one.
Hmm.
Well, thank you very much. Really appreciate you. Thank you, everybody, for watching with us today. We hope that you got sparked to have a little bit more sexy sensuality in your day, and we hope to see you again soon.